All right, so let's jump right into this. This is the pick and roll. I want y'all to know the three things that you need to do or moves you need to have before using the screen. You have to deal with the on-ball defender. You do that by having a hip swivel in your bag, by being able to do a move that's a lateral, and of course, rejecting the screen, which would be, speed crossover for some, spin for others. So, like right here, just so you know what the hip swivel is, this is a hip swivel. Court Since he gets pressured, he turns his body, so it's ball him man, and then this part is the hip swivel. All right. So he decides that there's nothing there, the screen is kind of too far, so he hip swivels and just gets space. So you notice as long as the defender's off of him, since Jacob's not pressuring up, he's dribbling in front. But the moment Jacob pressures, he'll turn his body. All right. So he wants the screen somewhere else, and then he comes off the screen. All right. Just real quick on this, even right here, court points for the screen. He comes off. I would say if I saw a man this low, I would probably take one more dribble and throw it off the dribble right to Nate. So now he's getting a wide open three or playing against a very reckless closeout. All right. I think Court takes a dribble and too long, and now that closeout is way shorter. So now that's a much tougher shot than what he could have had. Had Court thrown it a lot sooner with his left hand. All right, so this is not a hip swivel. Caleb's kind of using his quickness more so than anything, but you don't get as much space when you only use quickness because you're not changing speeds and you're not being a threat to reject. So a hip swivel allows you to make tie respect you going right, left, or shooting. But since your shoulders never turn, he pretty much knows you're going to go that way. So he's able to just move with them, and you really just don't create the separation that you really want when you don't hip swivel. So we want to make sure we add that in our bag when we're right. And here's another opportunity to hip swivel. We're just going to show it right here. Let's see. We basically just take off running, and if the switch was the goal, that's fine. We can just retreat. We don't have to immediately attack and take where we got to square up in the air shot immediately. So as y'all are forcing switches, remember, like you're forcing switches for a reason, and that's so your team can gain an advantage. So if that's the goal, go ahead and take that stronger shot. All right, so that was all the possible or attempted hip swivels. Now, keep in mind, I know the older group didn't do the pick and roll session. So those were literally the three. That's why I picked them out. So now we're going to talk about a couple of the laterals. So this is the other way you deal with the ball on ball defender. You see that shuffle to his right? That forces Lucian to go under the screen because he was late. We'll rewind it and watch it one more time. There's going to be a slight shuffle, and that shuffle makes Lucian respect him going baseline. So now when he comes off, I would have hid behind the screen. And remember, it's the post job to accidentally, quote unquote, roll into Lucian. And if you don't want to shoot the three, whatever side he comes out of, that's the opposite side you attack. So if Lucian would come out this way, you would drive baseline. If he were to come back this way, you would drive this way and force the switch. So those are some of the things we got to look at when we do a lateral and a guy goes under. They should be paying for that. Love the cut at the end of the day. Still doing 45 baseline. All right. And again, you guys didn't do the practice session, so I know why there wasn't many of these. If we would have dealt with the on-ball defender better, we would have did all right. Now Nate does a lateral here. He shuffles that way and then comes off. We did a little early. The screen isn't there and it doesn't really do much, but that's what a lateral is. And I like the way Nate's battling with his hands right here to get him off. But right here, this isn't the way Nate jumps because I know him well enough. And so I would have made a kick. There's some people who could jump right, left, inside foot and turn their bodies in the air, but this should be a kick because you attract it too. But we take a much tougher shot against a much more athletic guy. And really, the toughest guys to teach these guys like Gabe that are super fast. If you guys learn to hip swivel and do laterals, it will make you even faster. So like right now, you're relying on your speed. You see a screen coming, you're just like, let me just sprint off of it and just try to beat you to the basket. But if you add some gear change and pace to your game, people would know when or how fast you're gonna go and when you're gonna arrive somewhere. But right now, it's kind of predictable because they know you're gonna do whatever it is at fifth gear, which means timing you is a bit easier. All right, so we talked about hip swivel and laterals. Now, what about rejecting screens? You gotta be a threat to reject the screen. So if there's an open post, which means nobody's here, That's something you got to look at if your defender isn't ready. So right now, Will is paying more attention to the screen that's coming than he is about the ball handler. All right. And Miles notices that. So since he's still looking there, he rejects it and goes baseline. He doesn't score it necessarily, but let's fast forward and see what the threat of going baseline does from on the next possession. And this is the reason why you need to know how to reject screens, hip swivel, all of that, because the on ball defenders are going to be constantly making adjustments to deal with this. We call it traffic jams. So now, Will is a little bit more straight up. So now it's way easier to use that screen because Will isn't trying not to take it away. So now we turn the corner and we hit the roll guy for probably one of the few pick and rolls hitting the roller that we actually had all day. Some of that's because there's not a lot of post players out here, but some of it's just because we just don't quite know what to look for yet. All right. So again, and just in case I didn't say it, I don't think I did, is the first thing you look when it comes to attacking, meaning off the dribble, this is how I'm going to attack ball screens. You look to reject first because then you don't have to deal with all the reading and stuff. If it's an open post and the guy's giving you that, then maybe you take it. Got to have a pull up jump shot or a pull up game because low man helps. You got to be able to pull that midi after you reject it. Then you look to split the screen. If you can Mike Bibby it and split it before, that's an option. But most guys end up splitting behind the screen. Then you look to turn the corner. And then the fourth thing is to at least create a switch. So we're still on the portion where here's the first phase where we're rejecting screens right now. All right, so right here, Caleb has the ball, rejects the screen, easy layup. Low man isn't there, so he gets to score a basic layup. So this is when you really want to get to the point mentally where you can start playing chess. You just rejected a screen. The team just saw it. This is the very next possession. Now you need to actually use the screen because it's much easier. But you can tell Kev's not really used to using ball screens because look how much space is between him and the screener. So there's no action created. But had he come off the screen, he would have created something. So now we throw it to Nico over here. Now, this is what I want you guys to start thinking about. What could Caleb do right now as Blaze is coming up? First of all, Nico shouldn't even drive. If he sees that Blaze's man is that deep and he looks below Caleb, he knows Blaze is coming up wide open. Caleb should step right in front of Jackson, right? Not screen his own guy because his guy doesn't know Blaze is lifting, but step right in front of him. So this isn't a free run to Blaze. But nonetheless, they still get a 3-point shot and a make, but there's more stuff that we can create if we use the screen properly, and then we learn off ball to screen guys who aren't paying attention and are too deep. So let's watch again. Just move over and set that screen. He'd be wide. Blaze would get a much easier shot. All right, and on this possession, this is still we turn the screen, open post. So I think I know what Gabe's gonna do. Reject it. He has 2 steps, but he shoots it on his first. So if you just took 2 steps, easy left hand, but you kind of just threw it up before you needed to. But let's fast forward to where he has it again. So you would think, okay, now they're not going to let him reject. So now when he uses the screen, there's confusion. They go under it. There's still confusion. All right. So now it's a lot easier to use the screen after you reject is the point. All right. All right, and as y'all grow in this, remember your job as a ball handler or a playmaker is to make the game easier for your teammates. So now we've passed the reject phase. Now we're on the phase where you would either split it or throw a pocket pass. That's the next phase that you're looking for. So we get a screen, decent. All right, there's the pocket. So all Ty needs to do is take one more step and anticipate his roller open. So that's a pocket that's open if he throws a bounce pass or a push and it's still there. And Ty just takes too long to see the pocket. So now he's forced to throw, after his second dribble, he has to throw an over the top pass. All right. And so now we kind of got to go through an adventure to try to get a shot up. So Ty's job is to make it more and make it easier for his teammate to score. And you got to be able to make quick 0.5 decisions. But nonetheless, getting them at the rim is enough, but we don't want to be good. We want to be great. All right, and I know there's so few post players in this camp, so a lot of y'all don't know the rules. So some of that is just because we don't have guys who screen and get in and out of screens. But know the laws and know the rules because you could be in that situation for a bunch of reasons. So Blaze has an excellent stance, sets a screen. Now Blaze gets out of this screen super quick. Right now, he would pull this defender and leave a wide open Caleb in the corner. All right. And if this guy doesn't respect him, then, Nico would have to be able to deal with ball pressure and throw it over the top with his left hand. but Blaze has to get out, and then there's the potential of hitting the roll because I think Nico's eyes are in the right place. All right, but since it takes too long to get out, they recover, and then we end up, just with a normal possession. But I do like this. That's a reject, and then a drop off from Caleb. Great play, and there's Jabari, unfortunately. All right, so this is one of the first kind of 1/3 screens I saw, and that's really important. So Will kind of sets 1/3, which means uh 1/3, he's kind of behind the guy when he sets it. All right. So we, instead of dancing, we should come off that screen, make, I think this is LJ guard you, and then Will would be the first one out the screen, and we could throw it easy over the top. But then we, again, y'all didn't do the session, so we kind of do crossovers and unnecessary stuff. But the 1/3 screen is still there. So now, if you can turn the corner and just occupy this guy, Will would be wide open because he's going to end up below both of the defenders. So then we end up taking a much tougher shot. So just understand when 1/3 screens are set, it takes a lot of the decision and the thinking out of what you need to do. All right, so here, screen is used pretty well. I really like that. So now, because the screen, and this is almost a one, this is a 1/3 screen as well. So now, uh, if we throw good pocket passes, that's a possibility. And this is one thing you need to know too. A lot of guys use their athleticism to make passes. Guys that throw straight line passes, when really all you need to do is throw it up at the rim, and then this is a tip in. You don't have to dunk it, but because we're not throwing it, because we're jumping, it's just a sign that we don't have enough passes in our repertoire. So now that you have to kind of throw that, it still gets there. But again, our job is as point guards anyway is to make the other teammate more efficient. What's the most efficient shot we can create for our teammates? All right, so this one, Nate kind of backs in, ball him man. That's good. It'd be good to do a hip swivel here. But nonetheless, when we come off this screen, Nate, these are the things you need. You need to be chin to shoulder, and you got to be able to look past all the traffic. So if I were looking forward, what I'll be looking at is this guy and recognizing that Court's behind him. And knowing Court's tendency, he's probably going to cut. So I would stay wide and I just kind of wait there until Court cuts because whoever this is has no idea. All right, so we have a couple options. The roll guy is obviously open because it was a pretty good screen, so that's a pocket. And then being patient enough to wait on Court would be another thing. And I would be looking in the corner, making him think he's still in the corner while Court would be cutting. All right, but you kind of change directions. And let's say it went in. Again, I want to remind y'all, even if you score, you need to get to the level where you can play make. That's going to be the key. All right, but we start the blender because we get a paint touch. All right, I kind of have y'all out of camera, but Nate gets a paint touch here, which makes a helper help. So when we get back and throw it to the 45, it's one more pass, playing against the closeout, wide open shot. So you still start the blender, but the key is to make sure we can make those plays way sooner because the windows close quicker and quicker every level you go up. All right, this is getting long, so I'm going to try to shorten these last few clips up. So now we're on the part where you turn the corner. So now we have the ball. Anybody that backs into and really good at this ball, you man, make sure you're repping out hip swivels at home. It will change the options and your execution in pick and roll big time. But we turn the corner, he gets hung, and because of that, we get a wide open jumper. Way to turn the corner. All right, same thing. And remember, when you take care of your defender and you come off these screens, you have more space. So we do turn the corner and get a step. All I'm saying is you'll have more space to even shoot that layup, even though that one was fairly open. All right, and LJ, you just didn't come out ready on this one. Will has the ball. We already know the first thing is a pick and roll. You shouldn't be getting hung this bad on a screen, knowing that the rule of the first play is to come off the pick and roll, but it does. So we get an open jumper again, top of the key. But that's turn the corner in that scenario. All right, so let me say it is difficult to guard two actions back to back. So now we're going to talk about if a player's in drop or if they go under the screen. So that's the first screen, and we wore over it. But then the second screen comes back. This is what's difficult, worn over it twice. This is considered drop coverage. So Ethan hops off of his right foot. That's great footwork, great rhythm. Takes a shot. You can live with that all day, every day. All right, here's another screen. He decides to go under it. Now notice, Blaze didn't do a lateral, but he did do a jab. And when he opens up, that jab still made him respect it. So now he goes under the screen, and then Blaze hops into his footwork for a rhythm three. All right, now here there's a little confusion. We don't know who's going to pick up the shooter because of the screen, and that's considered a wide open shot. All right. So if you're playing defense, you can't give a guy what he wants. We all know Caleb wants to shoot this shot right here, so we got to make him get something else on it. All right, now I want everybody to see this. Jay plays for me, so he's going to do this a lot, and he is a post player, so he knows how to do it. We kind of have a saying before y'all watch this because it is a foul. We say, hey, the person who sets the best screens is the person who sets the most illegal screens that don't get called. So Jay knows how to set them legally, but he also knows what setting he's in. So he's doing what he's doing here. So this guy is going under the screen. So watch Jay push him and make sure he stays below. That's a foul. Don't do it unless you have bad refs. Wide open three. And keep in mind, most refs aren't calling off ball stuff. So I would test it and see if I get away with it until they say, hey son, you gotta quit, you gotta roll into him, don't push him. But anyway, right here, roll into the guy. They get Gabe off of Dre, so now Dre has maybe the matchup he wants, then he gets a three again because each time they go under it, it's gonna be a roll into and either a switch or a wide open shot. All right, so right here, again, you can hunt matchups with screens. It's not just so you can score. We come off screen, there's a switch, so now the point guard's guarding Carson. All right, so now we throw it in, and then Carson can just take his time with the matchup that he has. All right, and we get an easy bucket. So sometimes, you just find a red dot and you hunt matchup. All right, and Carter, I would say just be more patient on especially on this court. You got Will who sets a screen, but right now you're playing off the screen in most of these scrimmages as if the screen is for you. And that means a lot of times when you're thinking that way, you see the opportunities too late. So what happens is since you're not thinking, oh, all of a sudden we got to switch and Will's down low, you're still trying to attack yourself. So now the spacing is really poor. So if you would have stopped out here and just let the matchup be the matchup, you could have got it in. But now the traffic is too tight. Your guy's digging at the ball. And so now we end up getting nothing. Where if you'd have been more patient and realized what the screen did for us, you would have been able to make a better decision. All right, and finally, I just want y'all to know that y'all have like good instincts because some of the stuff that we taught, like baseline drive, 45, cut, like that's what this is. Ethan drives baseline, and Lucian and him play really well together. There's a 45 cut after he drives baseline. Here's another one. The drive, because of the screen, comes from the 45. We got LJ on the baseline. We can't see him. Backdoor cut. All right, another opportunity right there. All right, come off the screen. Jacob lifts. Jacob drives. Redrives. There's the baseline cut. Again, I love watching y'all implement previous things. Ethan comes off the screen. There's the drive. There's Lucian running across the baseline where nobody can see him. All right, and we'll finish with this one because this one kind of speaks to what we worked on the other day. This is basically a secondary cut. Again, this is stuff that y'all applying, don't even really know it. So we drive. Dre gets the ball right there in the paint. All right. And then Raphael cuts right off of him. So he pitches it to him. And he had a ton of options. He could have stopped for a three because of that. He decides to keep going to the hole. We don't get a bucket, but again, you can see the promise in the situation. So again, like I said, what you don't know will hurt you. And what you don't drill, you can't actually use. So you got to make sure you're drilling this stuff so you can do it on purpose because every defense has weaknesses and so do players. And you got to have a diversified game to be able to attack those weaknesses. All right, guys, let's get to work.